the highlighted issues, the ones that were all in the way.
The ones that raise the questions,
Yeah.
but at least it's an answer.
I think a lot was answered with our attorney that night.
She wasn't there, so you explained to her how it worked.
I guess I'm just reiterating that it was really helpful that he came that night at the planning commission. He answered a lot of my questions where I was able to follow him through.
Yeah, well, I tried to watch that, I couldn't hear what he was saying, so.
That was very helpful, but it's still on video, so if we ever want to go back and refresh our memories, then that's there.
The only question I have is on Rule 29. Typically what I've seen in the past is that people are going to express something that is important to put a disclaimer that this is my opinions and not necessarily my knowledge. If you are going to post something on social media, so that it's clear that you're not speaking on behalf of the town. It's generally what I've seen, and I think that, that kind of disclaimer makes it clear that you're not talking in an official capacity.
I think that's a point piece of it. I think the other part of it is that, theoretically, you could have somebody post something and express their opinion, and another town board member tries to express their opinion to your opinion, and then someone else, and then now you're kind of being forum.
Right.
So if you go on to the Wisconsin Town Association and Local Government Center for University of Wisconsin, the Attorney General's Office in the state of Wisconsin strongly discourages members of every governmental body from using any type of electronic email, instant messaging, blogging, or social media to communicate anything about any issues related to bodies, marital, or murder. The reason they do that is you can say you're telling us personally that you're an officer of the town, whether you're on the committee or the board. And that account of yours now becomes on record from beginning to end. Everything in it is now asked for under public record. So that's why the Attorney General's Office in the state is asking you not to use social media or email accounts to do that, because it puts a lot of them right that they don't believe that you should do so.
And then what was the end part of it, though, as far as the issues, phraseology?
That you should not be communicating about any issues within the body's realm of authority. So you're under a different set of circumstances than you are anywhere else when you're running a government unit. And that's why the Wisconsin Department of Justice put this out. And that's the WTA, University of Wisconsin League, the Wisconsin League of Municipalities has this on their website. It's all up there for everyone.
You need to post your pictures from the trip and
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with this. You guys can all have to do that. If you say, I don't like that road, and then something happens with that road, also it's going to happen because, whatever.
Again, it was brought up at one point that since our town page doesn't put out certain information, that it is possible that if someone had a whatever web page that they could say, construction is starting, something like that, yes.
Wait minutes around.
Yes, just
Not badly, right? Just wait minutes around.
Correct.
Like it says on our website. Construction is around the ball. We do it all the time. We have to put it on because of election time or whatever. And so yeah, that absolutely. That has nothing to do with as long as it's just that.
And it's
motion from the board. He was so convincing that the Board of Appeals ruled against the individual. The individual ended up suing both the town and the county, and they were able to new hearing and get it approved. Because he represented himself, that he knew what was going on in town, and he was a member of the planning commission, but representing himself as an individual, and it didn't work. We all got sued.
One thing I wanted to, just so the rest of you know, I actually was required to take the state's, open records law certification recently. I had to do that every year. So I just wanted you guys to know that as a new person here, I have read that and I'm familiar with it and have asked last night. But I really like the material that's provided with the packet here because not everything we say is going to be regarding the meeting. And so when we look at this, I guess it's the third page of the packet here. If there is information gathered, discussion, or decision making taking place, then the group is meeting for the purpose of conducting government business. So for example, if we have a windstorm tomorrow night and there's a tree down on the Hudson, and one of us states on Facebook, hey, there's a hazard here that we dealt with, that's providing information not gathering. So I can see certain things that would not be for the purpose of conducting our business or information gathering that would be helpful to the public as well. So I mean, not just because it's on Facebook or on, I don't use Twitter or whatever. I think giving one-way information is not as much of a problem as starting a debate. Because I think in that case, Ms. Johnson's absolutely right that can be used against you or us. So
I still have a question about the negative report. I mean, obviously, so like Dan and I go to the same tradition. We can talk as long as we're not talking about town business. You know, and I had talked to Susan before about potentially teaching my granddaughter about horses. That's okay. Okay, as long as we're not discussing.
When you start discussing number 12 on the agenda for the next meeting,
Yeah. No,
that's a problem, because,
That's what a negative quorum.
no,
A negative quorum is, Ken's not here next week, and you've talked to Dan, and you made up your mind that this is what you want. But the motion goes opposite you, and two of you vote against it, that's a negative quorum. Because now you've stopped the approval of it. So two people are a negative quorum of 5.
okay, I was just wondering about relationships.
right, so if someone overhears you and Dan saying, I don't like, this, we're not going for this.
Yeah.
And then you come in and,
By the way, for the record, I've never discussed any business of the town. Never.
That shop was going away, they were telling the party last weekend. One of my board members was there. I pretty much said, hi, how are you doing? And moved on. Because we're in a social setting, I don't want anyone to accuse us that we have our heads together, so to speak. So I just said, hi, and moved on.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've had meetings at his house where, one time, and nothing, town was.
yeah,
But that's looking at a negative quorum. A negative quorum is 2 people.
Discussing
And
business.
when 4 people are present, the 2 can stop any positive motion.
or if it's supermajority,
Or supermajority.
So if something requires a vote of
4 out of 5.
5.
Yeah.
But also when I was reading this and looking at the materials that I just got the other day, it doesn't prohibit you to have a one-on-one conversation. It's just that if something happens that could create that situation. So if you say, hey, is so-and-so on the agenda, that's a perfectly fine conversation to have. But if you are, talking about how, like polling, like how you would vote, how you would act, then you're for sure more of a danger zone. So,
No, but that's a walking quorum. You think you're going to vote until the other person talks to the third. Now the walking quorum takes place.
well, only if the original conversation was meant to do that. If somebody else talks to the third, there hasn't been that many prosecutions or whatever of that. It's not meant to discourage.
Perception is reality.
Yeah.
Perception is reality. But on the other hand, I think that being so scared as to not talk to each other is also not what this is.
That's not what that's saying. That's just saying don't discuss town business. I mean, yeah, we know that the interracial go to church together. It happens all over. I mean, you know, everybody belongs to the same church, you know.
The important thing is that what you hear in the meetings is what everyone is hearing at the same time. So that you don't have more information than Susan has, or Susan doesn't have other information that you don't have, and what you're hearing from the individual before you is different. What you want to hear in your board meeting is that the person appearing before you is saying everything you need to hear in order to make a decision. Then all of you are hearing the same thing, and no one is predisposing anyone to do something.
So there have been times when I've called Tim, when I didn't understand something, and just asked him to explain it to me.
A process or procedure.
Right, not like, how am I gonna vote, or, you know, just, can you explain this to me?
Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have plenty of those questions being new to this, and I would hope that if I say, hey, Susan, what is this all about? You know, is there a history with this? You know, that's not asking how I would vote, but asking a question about just, you know.
But her bias can play into that.
That's right.
That's why you need to go, the best thing you can do is go to the clerk's office, because we have all the information.
Get all the minutes, get whatever was in the
So we
package
can
at the
provide you
time.
all the information. You have to be careful because that bias can come through even though you don't want it to, or you're trying not to.
Well, I know like last year we brought up having a Christmas party, and said, no, we can't do it because we'll all be together and we consider it a meeting.
Yeah,
But if nobody's discussing business,
it's pretty hard.
it's perception.
You bet.
Yeah, I don't get everybody together. They used to 2 years ago, and there was a big hoo-ha.
Well,
It's too bad.
in my experience too, I've seen a lot of times where places will just notice if you think that we're all going to be at the fire hall for the pancake breakfast, which was just last weekend, you can notice that as a meeting, you know, and then you don't have.
Well, we don't do the pancake breakfast, but if there's, I don't know, fence viewing, or you're all going to the WTA meeting, you know, whatever, conference, whatever, we do post that, then there'll be a.
Notice of quorum.
Yeah, right.
I think you've also.
But no action will be taken
I-
at that.
I think also, like, when I attended the planning commission stuff, if there's more than 2 of us, I think you've noticed that.
Well, it's written right on the planning commission agenda. It's on every single planning commission agenda, so that you guys, you know, depending on,
The law requires that now.
so, yeah, so that's on the bottom of the planning commission agenda. But yeah, that's exactly, so.
I have a question about something different. On Rule 3, placement of items on the agenda. So just to give you an example of something that came up today, coming up here, we have the issue of this firearms permit. And I think that, I guess what I'm wondering is, can we put something in the rules that will give a small summary of what each thing means on the agenda so that it'll prevent needless questions? For example, on this other one, I had 2 people ask me if there was going to be a shooting range at this place, and I don't think that is at all what this thing is to deal with. But on the other hand, if we had a small summary that said, for example, it's required if you want to sell firearms to get approval from the town. That's what this application is. Some small, just summary so we can tell the public what it's about. Is that possible?
I mean, most things are applications. And the application should have all the information you need on it. This firearms thing is one thing that comes along once in a, millennium. I mean, and that's all it is. They're asking for that ability, and they're going to appear before you to state what their purpose is. Because it comes back to this, it's up to them to tell you.
Right, but I guess what I'm asking for is what can we tell the public and whether they should come to this meeting or not? We have some summary of what it
I
is.
don't want to take out the summary, I mean,
If you have a question, you should call the clerk's office and ask us what they're asking for. It's not
Or-
clear.
yeah, so that I can call them they should know before they get here that they need to bring something else, or bring some more information.
Absolutely.
Maybe just put that on there, if there's any questions, call the clerk's office.
Well, I
Because
mean,
anybody can call us and we'll give them a copy of it, even when it's stuff redacted on it.
I can see how that could be, you know, I mean, if you're making a little bit more of a description, now you're entering a kind of opinion as far as what's important.
Good point, Dan.
well, I see that, it's just, I was just thinking in this particular case,
Yeah.
you know, people were thinking it was something it wasn't, you know? and
It's
it's-
happened before.
That's why they should have called.
Yeah, you should have called.
And then again, I had questions and I did call the office
Okay.
and I asked some questions so that I was given the answers. So I knew what I felt was going on.
All right. Well, I guess people just decide to call the town chair instead of the office, I guess. and that's
You're gonna
fine.
get that lot,
You're gonna get that.
you're gonna get that lot,
You're getting 15 to 20 phone calls, and I start at 7 a.m.
and I've been told, and when I get emails, you know, on the website to my address, I have thanked them for writing, and I say, call the office with your questions. That's where I go, because I wanna thank them, because I wanna let them know that I am paying attention, but I'm not gonna directly speak with you, so.
Well, they might not have all the information.
Right, and so
So
then
then
it's,
it's in your brochure, and that's it.
here's the phone number, please call the office.
Well, same thing with us, and it's like, no, you gotta call, you know, so.
No, the building inspector.
Building inspector, well, just tell me what the setback is, you know? So,
I do the same thing. When I get emails, I don't respond, I just say, you know, they come and say, could you please contact the clerk? And I know Vicky appreciates it.
She likes mail.
and then I forward it to Brian, tell me whatever, you know.
Is there a gun range going in?
Is there what?
Is there a gun range?
Right next to the interstate.
Could have-
Next to the, next to the splash pad and,
And they keep talking about,
yeah.
Yeah, that actually was approved by the city, that.
Well, they do have the splash pad at White Camp, but
Yeah.
that's the big joke, is every time, you know, something gets poured out or.
So where are we at with the next step on the rules? And
They're already in force.
Right, they've already
They
been
have
adopted.
been,
this working session was because some people had questions, and so we brought it forward, so you guys can look at it again, but the rules have not been changed from what they are in your packet, that's what you will have, that's what you approved.
Yeah.
I should also point out that all your packets are coming with date stamps on them. Those date stamps tell you what day we put them in your books. So if there's any questions about when you're getting this information, you can see that.
That's a good idea. Okay, well, is there any other discussion? Any other questions, comments related to the rules? I guess I have one last question. So, something that came up that may not fit within these rules. Like, for example, we had the person who wanted to do a control burn, and there was some town property right next door. Brad Larson at 867 Yellowstone Trail. And it was tomorrow, so obviously it wouldn't be something that we could get on a meeting. What does the board want me to do with that situation when they call me? And my viewpoint is it costs us nothing, and it got, you know, it's gonna happen, and we wouldn't have to maintain it if it was burned. So I said, pending talking to you guys tonight, I think it sounds great.
Well, no matter what, they still have to call
Dispatch.
the dispatch. and-
well, but it's the fire department burn. It's the fire department that's doing the burn.
Are they burning ours this year?
Well,
Yeah,
usually,
so they're doing this burn, and then if they get done early enough, they're going to Cedar Hills
They're
tomorrow.
gonna burn that
They
too.
were supposed to do it last
don't they
week.
normally get a hold of the chair and then the chair chair lets us know, so if we get any phone calls that we
Well,
can,
this is a private burn. So this is not a commercial burn, this is a private burn.
I don't even think they.
So I'm assuming the fire department called dispatch and said, hey, we're out doing a burn at Brad's
The
house.
sheriff has a permit.
But they have a permit to burn Cedar Hills. So I got an email today that said possibly burning Cedar Hills tomorrow. Okay. Because we already gave them the permit to do it, because he said he was doing it, between here and here, because obviously you can't just pick a day and, if it's raining or it's blowing 50 miles an hour, we're not burning that day, right? So,
but if he's got, okay, so Brad gets this permit. I still think it's in good strategy to make sure that the chair knows that, like,
dispatch, so then there's
Well, I know.
if somebody gets
It doesn't even involve the town.
no,
It's just the sheriff.
right, they'll call dispatch, and so if anybody, like, oh my God, Brad's
Exactly.
house is on fire, you're gonna call dispatch, and they're gonna say, no, the fire department's.
Can I narrow this issue a little bit? So Brad called me because adjacent to his property is a sliver of town. And so he said, if we're already gonna burn, do you want the town's property burned as well? And so that's when he was being courteous enough to say, hey, we're already out there, what does the town think of this? And obviously without having a chance for a notice meeting, again, this kind of, I don't know, I said I would talk to you tonight.
We just can't make a decision tonight, because it's not on the agenda.
Right, but on the other hand,
But you can make a decision on your own.
and I guess that's what I was asking the question. If it's not these rules, can I still make a decision on that?
All you gotta do is find out the last time it was burned. It gets burned every 2 years, right? So every other year it gets burned.
Sure.
So this would be the year, last year Jim did it, it was seeded. Or was that last year when
I think
seeded?
so.
When I seeded
I
it?
think so.
Yeah, and the year before it was burned, so every other year. So yeah, they're there, they get burned and burned.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that it's a win-win for us. Didn't seem like there was any downside, so I'll call him back tonight then. and just say this.
Unless they're on the town hall, I'll have their recognition.
They're not burning it. They're gonna burn Susan's stuff down.
All right, last call for discussion on the rules.
I do still think that, like, we have all this equipment, we could run Zoom meetings. Because I know there's been times when I've been sick, while you guys are
We
kind
can't
of.
talk about that right now. That's not on the working session, whatever. So
Well,
that's,
it's on the rules.
right, but you still can't make a decision on it.
Okay, all right, so we'll put it on the agenda.
Put it on the agenda.
Okay.
And well then, have a last call for discussion. Anybody have a motion to adjourn a working session?
You don't have to adjourn.